The idea that we each have a spark of the gods, of the divine, of the sentient ball of magic that we all come from within us, I very much vibe with, I very much believe. And I also believe that that spark, the spark that is in each individual, is going to be very unique from one individual to the next. And I think this is something that is echoed in a lot of different beliefs. People talk about being fractals of whatever, and like you see this sentiment that we have the spark of the divine within us echoed in a lot of different belief systems. And I also think that like the big push in the spiritual community over the last, I want to say 10 years, it might be 5, to be radically authentic, to tap into our authenticity, the age of authenticity and things of this nature. I feel like that is just a different way for that channeled information to come through, that we are being called by the divine to tap into our unique individual divine spark. And for some reason I want to say, again, I just like want to reiterate, I do believe that like what we call the gods is, we are sparks of them. They're like the first reflection, or they're a much, much, much bigger or extra dimensional reflection that we can't really comprehend of the sentient ball of magic that we all hail from. And thus, because they are like a much more extra dimensional or bigger or older reflection, however you want to put it, we are in a sense quantumly entangled with them. We are more separated fractals of them. So like I think that, you know, one god could potentially have like thousands or more divine sparks that come from, that is like underneath of their soul family, which I think this might be in Gnosticism too. I'm not like super versed on Gnosticism, but I think that this is why we have always had such a strong connection with the gods, with the divine, because we are the physical, three-dimensional, more detailed, broken up pieces of them. So whereas like I believe that like my main spirit homie, that we're soul family, that like I am one divine spark within me from him. He probably has thousands or more, and that are on earth right now, that like inform him almost like an oversoul. Although when I ask about it, he says, no, it's not the same concept as an oversoul, but it would be, the idea is that like my divine spark that comes from this entity, or that this entity is like a larger encapsulation of this divine spark. There might be somebody else who, or like a ton of other people who come from his direct soul family that are all very different, because we're just more pinpointed, broken down perspectives of his divine spark. So the thousands or more of other divine sparks that come from that direct soul family are all going to have their own unique, there's going to be like similarities and overarching themes, but they're all going to be very unique in how they present. So like all this to say, the way that I see it is, I don't see it as, like, I think we're starting to unlearn the very Christian ideas of worship, and we're starting to understand worship as just like a deep relationship, rather than like I owe you and I should be scared of you and I have to follow you and you're some sort of authority. I think that we're breaking down these ideas of the divine beings that guide us being some sort of authority, and we're starting to come into the idea that we are part of their, like, we're soul family, we're quantumly entangled, we're on the same mission from different perspectives. And so all this to say that I feel that when it comes down to humanity, I feel that all humanity has, and animals and like all creatures have a spark of the gods, of the sentient ball of magic within us, and the focus on the age of authenticity and tapping into the idea of going within and all this other stuff is this idea that each of our divine spark is one very unique perspective. Hold on, my cat will not stop scratching at the door of the catio. Okay, if I can try to remember where I left off, I'm pretty sure I was explaining that I believe that we see this calling from the gods over the last couple decades, but even longer. I feel like it's really just evolved. The message has evolved as humanity has evolved. This message that we see in modern day expressed as go within and, be the change you wish to see. And, this is the age of authenticity, tap into our own intuition. It's very inward focused. And I believe that this is an intentional divine message because of the fact that we are each a very unique individual spark of the gods. And I feel that we will eventually, that's the journey we're on, essentially. The journey that we're on, humanity's journey, the game we're playing, is to tap in to our unique individual divine spark. And essentially the path to enlightenment is the path to turning within and learning to interpret and connect with our own individual divine spark. And the thing that I want to add to this conversation, and again, it might be talked about already, I don't know, but I think that it's important. I feel like the conversation is heavily focused on tapping into my divine spark for my own healing, for my own enlightenment, for my own betterment. And that is important. That is a very important piece of it. But I think it's also important to explore that from the angle of the collective because of the fact that I think so many people are held back. And the reason, when I think about it, and I think about it a lot, the reason that so many people are held back from this specific mission, and they know in their heart of hearts that it's true, is because of external conditioning that says, it's like amygdala hijacks that say, but if you don't do it this way, it's going to hurt the entire world. Or if you don't do it this way, you're a bad person. Or if you don't do it this way, all of the external conditioning and external control tactics and manipulation tactics sometimes it's not even intentional. Sometimes it's I feel like sometimes people are tapping into their own individual divine spark and they're really getting strongly, and I'm guilty of this at times, they're really strongly picking up on the fact that this is how my divine spark wishes to contribute, wishes to express, wishes to move forward. But the way that they're picking up on it, they think that means every single person has to be doing the same exact thing. So then they're unconsciously spreading this fear-mongering propaganda that makes it essentially so that people are steered off of their own divine spark's path, okay? And when people talk about the age of authenticity and tapping into authenticity, this is a normal thing to say that it doesn't just benefit you. The reason, another big reason that we are being called by the divine, by our, divine counterparts, are the beings guiding us from extra dimensional realms. The reason that we are being called to tap into our authenticity and our uniqueness is because each person has something extremely unique to offer the world, right? If I am believing conditioning that I am supposed to be a certain way, then I am essentially depriving the world of my personal magic. And let me say that again, because this is essentially the most important part of this message that I'm trying to convey. If I am allowing myself to be limited by and believe the expectations of others, then I am depriving the world of my own unique divine spark, my own personal magic. I am depriving the world of that. If I do not allow myself to tap into my true divine spark, I'm depriving the world of it. The way that I interpreted it before was like a puzzle, okay? If one, like we as the collective we are all part of the same collective. We are all part of the same sentient ball of magic. However, we are all each individual puzzle pieces. And, you know, we'll just take this into the numbers of human beings on Earth, okay? So say there's 8 billion puzzle pieces to make up this whole entire puzzle. That's a lot of puzzle pieces, and each of them is completely unique, and each of them goes in a completely separate space. But if we have one puzzle piece over here saying the way to put the puzzle together, the way to put the puzzle together is to do X, Y, and Z. This is how you have to be to put the puzzle together. You have to be exactly like this in order to put the puzzle together. Then you have all these other puzzle pieces that are hearing this information surrounding that puzzle piece, trying to squeeze themselves in to that puzzle piece's placement, to squeeze themselves in to fit with that puzzle piece, and they don't fit into that placement. They don't fit. They are not that puzzle piece. So they can spend all their energy and waste all their energy trying to be that specific puzzle piece, but they are never going to be that specific puzzle piece. And because they are never going to be that specific puzzle piece, they are then stagnating the progress of putting the puzzle together because they're not tapping into where they belong as a puzzle piece, where their specific puzzle piece belongs. And the only way to know where your specific puzzle piece belongs is to be able to tap into your specific divine spark and follow the orders of your higher self and your divine spark. Not to say that we can't be influenced by others, not to say that people can't say things that validate something we already knew, not to say that people can't point things out from a perspective that we weren't thinking about it. Like, this isn't to say that other people don't have value, because this is part of being one piece of an entire puzzle, is we're going to be influenced by others. And from that influence, we decide how, we have to be able to tap into our own spark to be able to decide how that puzzle piece that we are interacting with affects us and what that means to us. It is ultimately each individual puzzle piece, their own responsibility to understand how all these other puzzle pieces are affecting them and what that means to them and how they specifically need to navigate that further, because it's going to be different for every single person, for every single situation, from situation to situation. How to navigate an interaction or issue or an obstacle is going to be different for every single puzzle piece. So the only way to know is to learn how to not allow the expectations and the conditioning of others to affect and control the individual puzzle piece. And the way that I've been thinking about this recently, in terms of the global stage and practically what's going on in humanity, because I do think that the spiritual community does have a tendency to not understand the balance of have to turn within and still have to interact in the world. I came here to interact in the world. I did not come here to bury my head in the sand. And I think that the spiritual community at large has a really hard time staying in sync with the collective conscious, and also understanding that at the end of the day, they have to be the decider of themselves and they have to turn within, and only they themselves know. So in terms of the world stage and what's practically going on with humanity, the thing that I've been thinking about a lot, because I am somebody who is easily affected by the suffering of others and the terrible things that are going on. But at the end of the day, I can only do what I am good at, what my divine spark is called to do. I cannot, like, I could try, because you will have all these people, if you're in sync with the world stage in any sort of way, you're going to have all these people coming across your life, your all these people coming into your reality, whether that be online, in person, or a combination, that are giving you different perspectives of what you should be doing, okay? What you should be doing. And the thing about this is, for starters, it cannot be simply stated what we can be doing, because every single person's circumstances are different. Every single person's gifts and skills are different. Every single person's understanding and perspective of the world is different. Like, every single person has different gifts and different abilities to use those gifts. And like, there's a reason for that. So the calls to action that are like, must do this, must do that, I think broadly the biggest calls to action that I think about all the time are to educate and spread awareness, to do some sort of like boots on the ground activism, and to like, there will be these broad categories, but within those broad categories, it also breaks down so much further. Like, for example, me, myself, I would not be good at educating about like detail-oriented world issues, because I'm not good at detail-oriented. I'm not, like, my ADHD brain could never, the amount of energy that I would have to put in to that in order to be like below average and still mess a lot of things up would be a lot. Okay. And, there's tons of things that I have seen people be like, you have to be this way, you have to be that way, you have to put all your energy into this, that I personally would be terrible at. Okay. But there are small ways that I can contribute to those types of things. Like, I can show engagement on information that I think people need to hear, that like somebody else put this information out there and I think it's really good information. So I can engage with that so that I boost that so that more people hear that information. I can do that. That's a way that I can contribute to the goal of education. I can contribute in little ways based on what my unique divine spark is capable of and is good at and has the resources for. Okay. But if I put all my energy into being something that I'm not, then I'm depriving the world of something that I am. And so and the other thing that I realized today is that also in the spiritual community, a lot of people think that, there's like the whole keep a high vibe thing. And it's like, first of all, I just disagree with that on so many levels. I think that that is also deeply rooted Christian programming that aims to separate two natural forces, okay? The, so to speak, light and the dark, like the yin and yang sign, it aims to separate two natural forces within reality and demonize one and pedestalize the other, okay? I think that, all emotions and all perspectives are valid, and I don't think that if you focus on the negative, you are going to make any sort of issues in your life, unless your personal divine spark at that personal moment wants you to be focusing on something else. And even then, it's not going to be fucking catastrophic. That's the thing about this shit, is that another thing I was thinking about is because of the intensity of the collective conscious right now, people feel that there's this undertone of kicking and screaming and trying to fix everything right now. And the only way that everything would get fixed right now is if all 8 billion of us came on the same page. And that's not something that even happens overnight. That's something that happens over the course of generations. The point of all this to say that each individual has, like I said, a different set of circumstances, gifts, abilities, and resources, and only they can know what they are best at offering, okay? Oh, this is what I was gonna say. So a lot of people in the spiritual community love to poo-poo on negative emotions, and I had this realization today while talking to the spirit homie that there is actually a place for fear and panic, okay? And the place is, and that should only be, that's something that people have to tap into their own divine spark to understand, like, if that's right. Although I do think that a lot of the people who get stuck in that are probably intentionally less in their body because, like, it's a safety measure. But there is a place for fear and panic. And the place for fear and panic in the collective conscious is to kind of wake up other members of the collective conscious. Because I do believe that, like, energetically speaking, each member of the collective conscious, so each divine spark within the whole, as they start to make changes in their own mentality, it's like a ripple effect, okay? And this goes into another part of why it's so important to go within and tap into our own divine spark, because if I focus on making sure, like, healing myself and making sure that I am the best me that I can be, and making sure that I am operating in my authenticity and my integrity, in my highest integrity and authenticity, the way that my divine spark and my higher self knows I should be functioning, then I am essentially empowering people who have never met me to do the same, because we still are connected through the collective conscious, and it is still causing a ripple effect. Okay. And likewise, I think there does serve a purpose for people to not be in their power, in their, like, I have moments where I'm stuck in fear, panic, and hopelessness. And that might serve a purpose at those times. That might serve the purpose that it is alerting other members of the collective conscious who never would have been woken up to the reality of the situation before. Like, feeling in fear and panic could be affecting somebody, hundreds of miles away or even more, to be like, what's going on? What is happening? Like, it could be helping people to wake up in a sense. You know what I mean? But I also feel that the best way, so there's the element of tap into your divine spark to see how your divine spark wants to express, and what its gifts, what its talents, what its passions are, which is going to be fulfilling for each individual, and it's going to be fulfilling for the collective. It's going to be nurturing for the collective. But also there's the element of healing. If each person, like, if when I focus on healing me, I help to heal the collective. And not only do I help to heal the collective, me doing healing work for myself is potentially, again, waking people up who I never would have met to healing work for themselves. And this can play out in so many ways as well. Like, maybe it's like, also, it could be members of the collective conscious who I'll never meet that somehow pick up on it because of the collective conscious, and it inspires them to investigate certain things that would help them on their journey. But also, it could be that just me working on healing myself, when I'm around other people and they see my behavior change, they're going to go, why is that? And I might not necessarily be evangelizing or proselytizing my experiences to them, because that's pretty much, I feel, useless in a lot of ways, unless your divine spark feels very called to do that, I guess. I might not be evangelizing and proselytizing my experiences to them, but they might notice, they might get curious, and they might do some investigating for themselves. It might inspire them to investigate for themselves how they can deeper learn about themselves. Okay, my phone is really close to dying, but just to put a cap on this, this was to express that each of us have a very unique individual divine piece of the divine spark, a very unique individual fractal of the divine that makes up the entire collective. And the only way to utilize this in a way that is fulfilling and nurturing to both yourself and the entire collective as a result is by tapping into your own divine spark and learning to discern, which is a long, sloppy, difficult, hard, painful process. Learning to discern between fear of not meeting others' expectations, or fear of judgment, or fear of doing the wrong thing, or fear of making the wrong choice, to discern between that and to discern between actual inspiration and information from one's own individual divine spark, one's own individual higher self. The discerning between the two, very difficult, because it's in our biological nature to want to be included and to be social. But the irony of the situation is that in order for an entire collective to be healthy and to be functioning and to be nurturing, each individual in that collective has to be actively working to be healthy, functioning, and, nurtured and fulfilled. Okay, that's all I'm going to say for this one. Thanks. Bye.